My father was arrested at 6 a.m., and by dinner, his boss was living in our house, drinking from his coffee mug and calling me kiddo. When I found the voice recording that could clear my dad's name, he did everything he could to break me. But I turned his own weapons against him in ways he never expected. Dad used to leave post-it notes in my lunchbox, saying "Roar" means "I love you" in dinosaur. Even at 14, I kept every single one in a shoebox under my bed. So when the FBI dragged him out of the house in Spider-Man pajamas while my mom collapsed screaming on our front lawn, I knew something was wrong. The way they wouldn't let him hug me goodbye. The way they ignored him when he said he was innocent. Within 48 hours, Patrick showed up. My mom's boss from the accounting firm, where Dad had worked for 15 years. He had grocery bags in his arms and this perfectly rehearsed look of concern on his face. "Laura, you can't go through this alone," he said, stepping inside like he owned the place. Mom was too shattered to argue when he announced he'd be staying in our guest room. He brought 3 suitcases, like he'd planned it all. That first night, Patrick sat in Dad's chair at dinner. He drank from Dad's mug. He even tried to cut my meat like I was 5. "We're gonna get through this together, kiddo," he said. I wanted to throw up. The way he said kiddo made my skin crawl. Dad never called me that. But for months, I played along. I helped Patrick box up Dad's things because Mom said we should be grateful. I served him dinner, pretended to appreciate him showing up at my soccer games, standing where Dad used to stand, but scrolling through his phone the whole time. He threw money at everything, but couldn't remember if I played offense or defense. When I got my period and needed my mom, she was at another lawyer meeting with Patrick. When I had nightmares about Dad getting hurt in prison, Patrick's solution was to buy me a new laptop. I wrote letters to Dad in secret, hiding them between my textbooks. At night, I still set his place at the table. When Patrick worked late, I wore Dad's old college hoodie to bed, even though it drowned me and Mom said it was morbid. Sometimes I could still smell his cologne in the fabric. The breaking point came on Dad's birthday, his first behind bars. I'd saved my allowance for 3 months to cover bus fare and had filled out all the visitation forms myself. When I asked Mom, Patrick answered, "That weekend won't work. I've got the Henderson client dinner and I need my family there. It's important for my promotion." Mom backed him up instantly. "Patrick's right, sweetheart. That promotion means college tuition. Your father would understand." When I insisted Dad was innocent, Patrick snapped. "Innocent men don't have offshore accounts in the Caymans. Stop living in fantasy land." That night, Mom took my bus money, said it was for my own good. I heard her crying later, but she didn't give it back. So I tried to hitchhike. I made it 50 miles before state police picked me up at 2 a.m. at a gas station. Patrick convinced Mom I needed therapy for my delusions about Dad. He put tracking apps on my phone and monitored all my messages. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Patrick came home completely wasted from some office party. I found him in Dad's study, clutching Dad's old watch and rambling. "Your father, always so damn righteous, wearing his wire to the office like some kind of hero. I had to rip it off him myself that night." He passed out in Dad's chair. I stood there, stunned. What wire? Dad hadn't been wearing a wire when they arrested him. And that watch, it wasn't even listed in the evidence report. Mom was calling from upstairs asking if Patrick was okay. After she went back to bed, I searched everywhere for that watch, until I thought of his car. My hands were shaking as I took his keys and crept into the garage. In his glove compartment, wrapped in a plastic bag, was Dad's smartwatch, the one I helped him set up last Christmas. It still had 2% battery. I opened the voice memo app. The last recording was from the night before Dad's arrest. His voice filled the car. "Patrick just left my office. He's threatened to plant evidence if I don't destroy the audit report. I'm recording everything now." Then Patrick's voice, clear as day. "By morning, you'll be in handcuffs. I've already moved the money to your accounts. Laura doesn't have to know what you did.
I'll take good care of her." Then sounds of a struggle. Dad yelling, "Get off me!" Patrick snarling, "Gimme that watch." Then silence, just static. And then the recording ended. Suddenly, the garage door creaked open behind me. Patrick stood there, car keys in hand, stone cold sober. "Looking for something, kiddo?" My heart slammed against my ribs as I clutched Dad's watch tighter. He blocked the garage entrance completely, his shadow stretching across the concrete like a stain. The motion sensor light blinked on behind him, casting harsh angles over his face. I scrambled backward, bumping into the car door. My thumb hovered over the emergency call button on my phone, while my other hand gripped the watch like it could save me. Patrick stepped forward, closing the door behind him with a slow, deliberate click. The soft sound echoed through the too quiet space. He moved toward Dad's old toolbox on the workbench, each step slow, steady. I pressed myself against Mom's Honda, watching his fingers drift across the tools. He paused on the hammer handle. My mouth opened before I could stop it. The words tumbled out, high and cracking. I told him Mom would hear everything on the recording, but my voice broke halfway through, and suddenly I didn't sound like someone brave. I just sounded like a scared kid. That's when the neighbor's motion light flooded the garage window. We both froze. Mrs. Chen was taking out her trash, same as always, at 11 p.m. Through the thin garage walls, we could hear her humming that same old Chinese melody. She'd hear any screaming. She would hear. My eyes darted between the garage door opener and the watch in my hand. I had maybe 3 seconds. Protect the evidence or get out. Patrick's breathing changed. Shallow, panicked. The same edge I'd heard in Dad's recording. I chose the car. Before I could think, my body moved. I yanked open the door and dove inside. The locks clicked down just as Patrick's hand moved away from the hammer. He strolled to the key hook by the door like we were playing some slow, twisted game of chess. From the kitchen door, Mom's voice drifted into the garage. She was asking if everything was okay. Patrick's response was smooth, calm. Just helping her find her soccer cleat. The lie slid from his mouth like silk. I stayed frozen in the car, realizing I'd have to lie too, just to protect her, to stall for time. But that meant I was now part of it, complicit in his deception. Patrick stepped up to the car window. His hand trembled as he reached for the handle, actually trembled under all that control. He was afraid too. My phone buzzed. A text from Noah. Something normal. Did you finish the history chapter? Study group tomorrow. The outside world was still turning, still pretending everything was okay. I fumbled with Dad's watch trying to plug it into the car's charger. 1% battery left. The screen flickered. My fingers shook as I searched for the phone cable, praying the audio would transfer in time. But did I save the recording? Or call 911? The screen went black for a second. My elbow bumped the horn. A sharp honk split the night like glass shattering. Mom appeared seconds later, her bathrobe tied hastily around her waist, confusion etched across her face. She looked between Patrick and me. Patrick's phone buzzed. He checked the screen, and something in his expression shifted. Mom was saying something about the custody evaluation tomorrow, the forms Patrick needed to sign. Without them, she couldn't prove we had a stable home for court. My chest tightened. That same crushing pressure bloomed behind my ribs, just like after Grandpa died. Mom recognized it immediately. Her face fell as she watched me struggle to breathe. Patrick's phone lit up again. He typed something fast and held the screen up so I could see it through the window. A screenshot of Dad's old company credit card statement. Legitimate client dinners, but the totals. Patrick could twist those numbers however he wanted to. I tried to send the recording to my phone, but the parental controls he'd installed weeks ago blocked the file transfer. An alert would have gone to him instantly. He knew what I was trying to do. Another message from Patrick popped up on my phone.
A reminder popped up. Patrick still controlled our family Spotify account. All of Dad's carefully built playlists, years of music memories, lived there. The account would be deleted in 24 hours unless the payment info was updated. Morning came too quickly. I hadn't slept. My hands shook as I reached for Mom's coffee mug, trying to act normal. It slipped through my fingers and shattered on the kitchen floor. Mom looked in my trembling hands, then at the dark circles under my eyes. I looked exactly like what Patrick wanted her to see, a strung-out kid unraveling. At school, Coach pulled me aside after practice. Patrick had called about our home situation. As a mandatory reporter, Coach had to document anything concerning. I stood there in muddy cleats, realizing Patrick had just weaponized the entire school system against me. By lunch, the whispers had started. 3 teammates mentioned their parents didn't want them sleeping over at our house anymore. That unstable house. I took my tray outside and ate alone near the dumpsters, away from the stairs. Patrick's words from breakfast kept repeating in my head. Something about offshore accounts. But wait, that matched Dad's legal overseas client payment account. The one Patrick had helped him set up years ago when the firm landed that international contract. He'd been part of the paperwork from the beginning. Noah found me after school. He looked uncomfortable. His mom worked at Patrick's firm. She needed a recommendation letter for his college applications. The unspoken message was clear. Don't drag us into this. That night, a cloud backup alert lit up my phone. If I wanted to prove Patrick had planted evidence, I'd also have to reveal something else. Dad had hidden a $50,000 bonus from Mom. He was planning to surprise her with a 30th anniversary trip to Italy. But hiding money, even for a good reason, could make him look guilty, couldn't it? Still, when I saw the backup had worked, I smiled. Just a small smile of relief. But the guidance counselor saw it through the library window. She wrote something in her notebook. Later, I found out she documented it as an inappropriate emotional response to my father's imprisonment. My phone buzzed again. Patrick. 2 words. You decide. He knew this would end with one of us destroyed. The only question was, which one? The next week blurred. Patrick started attending my parent-teacher conferences without Mom. He charmed Miss Martinez with stories about stepping up as a father figure during this difficult time. She showed him my creative writing journal where I'd written about feeling trapped. He stored that detail away like ammo. Then the polygraph results came in. Mom passed. She genuinely believed Patrick had only been helping with taxes that night. I passed too. I knew he'd been drinking at the office. 2 truths that shouldn't both be possible, but somehow were. Someone found my old text to Noah. Complaints about Dad being strict with my grades. Normal teenage venting. But in the custody evaluation, they became evidence of my resentment towards authority figures. The little girl from next door tugged on my sleeve at the bus stop. She wanted to know why my daddy stole money. Patrick had explained it at the block party, she said, in simple terms for a 2nd grader to understand and repeat. Late one night, I remembered the old nanny cam account from when I was little. The cloud storage still auto-saved. I scrolled back through months of footage. And then I found it. Patrick in our living room a month before Dad's arrest. Rehearsing in front of the mirror. Practicing his concerned face. Repeating what he'd say about Dad's suspicious behavior. I tried submitting the footage to family court, but the clerk sent it back. Recordings submitted by a minor in custody proceedings were often viewed as manipulative. Dad's Amazon password still worked. His order history showed 2 identical smartwatches, one shipped to him, one scheduled for Patrick's office. The 2nd order had been canceled the day before Dad's arrest. Patrick's LinkedIn timeline didn't match. He claimed to be at a conference the week of the arrest, but the hotel receipt photos he posted had different dates if you zoomed in close enough. Dr. Patel, the therapist Patrick had chosen for me, took notes during our sessions. She later said it was her legal obligation to report my unhealthy fixation on a stepfather figure to the court.
I was genuinely sorry. I tried recording Patrick at dinner, but he caught the reflection of my phone screen in the microwave door. He didn't say anything, just smiled and asked if I was still trying. That word again, kiddo, soaked in fake concern. Mom's doctor appointment ran long. My choice was clear, either accept a ride from Patrick or miss the custody hearing. I sat stiffly in his car, watching him adjust the watch on his wrist, the engraved one from when I was born. Mom had said he should have something to remember me by, a keepsake, something permanent. As we drove, Patrick made me an offer. I could keep one recording of Dad's voice if I dropped all of this. Just one, my choice. His generosity, he called it. I refused. The court mediator noted that too, said I prioritized conflict over preserving my father's memory, that I was choosing chaos instead of healing. Everything was unraveling. Dad's sister called to say she was sorry she couldn't testify. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint with her HR department, accusing her of spreading conspiracy theories. She had kids to feed. She couldn't risk her job. The metadata on Dad's voice memo showed March 15th instead of the 16th, but I knew why. Dad had started setting all his devices a day ahead after Mom's cancer scare. He swore he'd never miss another appointment or anniversary again. Patrick's lawyer was already planning to use that against us. While looking for Dad's old files, I found Mom's journal, an entry from 2 months before the arrest. She'd written about Dad's growing paranoia about Patrick, how worried she was about his mental state. Her own words would damn him now. But reading further, it made sense. Dad wasn't paranoid. He was tracking Patrick's pattern of financial discrepancies, not for a lawsuit, but to protect the junior employees at the firm. He didn't want them to take the fall for Patrick's crimes. Grandma came to visit. She pulled me aside in the kitchen, slipped $200 into my hand. But when Mom walked in, her face changed. She whispered, "I can't lose my only daughter, too." She had to stand by Mom, at least in public. I made a fake Instagram account and messaged Patrick's ex-girlfriend. Started with harmless comments on her travel photos. Built it slowly, casually, mining for any info I could get without sounding desperate. At the pharmacy, I bumped into Patrick's mother while she was picking up his prescriptions. Small talk revealed the truth. He'd been on anxiety meds for a while. The dates lined up. The dosage had increased just before Dad's arrest. Dad's phone was still synced to our family computer. The Voice Memos app had backed up before everything went down. In the recently deleted folder, I found the backup. Every single file was there. Ellen, Dad's former secretary, reached out through a lawyer. She had dirt. Patrick had asked her to notarize backdated documents, but she wanted immunity first. She said her own involvement ran too deep. I missed a crucial therapy session to meet Ellen's lawyer. Dr. Patel marked me non-compliant. The custody recommendation dropped immediately. My college savings vanished quickly. The lawyer quit after Patrick threatened her firm's biggest client, something about pulling their full investment portfolio if she kept representing me. He did it at Dad's favorite diner. I confronted Patrick's assistant. It didn't go well. The waitress, an older woman who'd served our family for years, had heart palpitations from the yelling. An ambulance was called. Patrick twisted that, too. Told school I was traumatizing innocent people with delusions. School suspended me for emotional outbursts that disrupted the learning environment. The homeschool tutor they assigned, Patrick's neighbor. He recommended her himself. Then, he claimed my room needed mold testing. I was moved to the basement couch. He installed what he called air quality monitors, little red lights that blinked through the night, recording everything. Mom found me crying in the laundry room. She begged me to let Dad face his consequences in peace. "You're killing me with this stress," she whispered, her hands trembling as she folded Patrick's shirts. My investigation into the firm's books triggered an audit on Noah's mom's department. Noah sent me a photo of her crying at their kitchen table. "Because of me," he wrote. His parents were talking about divorce over the financial pressure, audit fees, legal costs. But I kept going. Even knowing Noah might lose his home, even knowing his family was falling apart. The truth mattered more than friendships. During a mandatory counseling session, the school therapist looked me in the eye and asked, "What if your dad really did take the money?" The question hung heavy. For the first time, I didn't know how to answer. Doubt crept in at the edges. I told Mom later that I'd considered recording Patrick without his consent. I showed her the internal struggle, how I'd decided not to. She looked at me with something like pity. The watch recording revealed something else I hadn't expected. Dad had known I was being bullied at school, but he'd been too focused on documenting Patrick's corruption to help me. His voice cracked in the recording, saying he should have noticed the signs, that he should have been there for me. Patrick's lawyer filed an emergency motion, said my mental state was declining and the hearing had to be pushed forward. Conveniently, my lawyer was unreachable, on vacation in Bermuda. At the hearing, I looked at Patrick and saw something unexpected. He actually wanted to be the father figure he thought I deserved. All those years of watching Dad work late, miss my games, skip dinners, Patrick had seen an opening. He'd thought he could do better. His anger came from rejection, from Dad turning down his mentorship, from Dad threatening the image Patrick had built of himself as the family's savior. It was never about money. It was always about ego. I had to reveal Dad's investigation notes, the ones about Patrick's Tinder profile, how he'd studied the spouses of firm employees, how he'd researched Mom's favorite wines, her college stories, her music tastes, planned his approach like a marketing campaign. To counter Patrick's tactics, I had to become strategic myself. I visited his elderly mother at her assisted living facility. I listened while she rambled during bingo. She mentioned Patrick's money problems, said he'd borrowed from her retirement account. Eventually, I caught Patrick in a lie. Something small about a client meeting date. But it was something. A win. Still, it felt hollow. Later that day, I saw him at Dad's grave, both of us crying in front of the same headstone, both of us broken in our own way. Then came Patrick's counterclaim, said I was a danger to the household. The judge didn't dismiss it. Everything now rested on Mom's testimony about the night of the arrest. After the hearing, Patrick's mother texted me, said he'd destroyed her retirement too, but also told me I was hurting innocent employees with this crusade, that their families needed the jobs I was threatening. Dad's former colleagues were split. Some had always suspected Patrick, but stayed quiet. The rest defended him to protect their positions. No one wanted to be the next one targeted. The judge explained the burden of proof, clear and convincing evidence. The watch recording wasn't enough on its own, could be edited, could be misinterpreted. I needed backup. So I called Mr. Lee, one of Dad's longtime clients. He owed everything to Dad's investment advice. He agreed to check the firm's books one time only. He found a partial audit trail, but he wouldn't testify. His visa status was too risky. The trail revealed the reason Dad had stayed quiet. Patrick had recordings of Mom's therapy sessions, confidential audio from when she'd leaned on him as a friend, sensitive things she shared after her father died, her lowest point. Dad had stayed silent to protect her, because if she were labeled unfit, I would be taken from her. I dug into the car's Bluetooth logs. Patrick's phone had connected to Dad's system the night before the arrest. There was even a recorded call to Mom, Patrick talking about next moves while sitting in Dad's car. That evidence existed because Dad spent his final free days setting up security systems instead of spending time with us. He knew what was coming. He chose to protect Mom, chose truth over comfort. He paid for it. In court, I laid it all out. I revealed Mom's mental health crisis. I showed Patrick's pattern of manipulation, how he weaponized personal trauma, gathered ammo, used it. Patrick had sworn, under notarized statement, that he'd never been in Dad's vehicle. The Bluetooth logs said otherwise. Perjury on a federal document. I watched his face collapse as the reality hit. I presented every piece of evidence calmly. No satisfaction when Mom saw the betrayal, just pure exhaustion. Patrick's allies distanced themselves right there in the courtroom. The FBI reopened the case. New evidence, frame job, coercion. Both sides began preparing for a federal criminal trial.
The trial moved beyond family court. This was federal now. We all wore the weight of it. My hair had started falling out from stress. Patrick's had gone gray almost overnight. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 months. The truth came out through forensic accounting. Patrick's embezzlement stretched back over a decade. Layer after layer of manipulation. Companies hollowed out. Retirement siphoned away. His longtime secretary finally broke. She admitted she'd known, but her son had special needs. She needed the insurance. I couldn't afford to have a conscience, she said, sobbing on the stand.
The judge ordered full psychiatric evaluations for everyone. Mom, me, we were all considered damaged now, all in need of assessment. Digital forensics authenticated the recordings, even with chain of custody issues. The metadata backed up the timeline, even with Dad's habit of setting his devices a day ahead. Truth was truth, even when it came from fractured places. Then came the bigger reveal. Patrick's history ran deeper. His former mentor had died in a car accident a decade earlier, just one day after confronting Patrick about suspicious financial activity. No one had connected the dots, until now. During his unraveling, Patrick exposed his core belief. He truly thought he deserved everything he'd taken: the money, the lives, the families. To him, it wasn't theft, it was rebalancing the universe. They asked me for a victim impact statement at sentencing. I asked for maximum security with mental health treatment. He's sick, not just cruel, and Dad would want him to get help. Dad was released on bail pending retrial. I was placed under temporary guardianship with Grandma while Mom entered intensive therapy. We were a family shattered into pieces, living apart, trying to heal. The community split into factions: those who ignored the warning signs, those who tried to help but were shut down, those who protected Patrick, those who knew something was wrong but stayed quiet. Half the firm had known. In therapy with Mom, we began to rebuild. Trust wasn't fully repaired, but it was no longer broken beyond recognition. She'd been a victim too. We both had. Patrick had driven a wedge between us with precision. Restraining orders were issued, financial restitution ordered. Dad's name was cleared, his reputation restored. But it didn't feel like a win. It felt like survival. The nightmare had ended, but recovery was just beginning. 6 months later, I gave a talk at a victim advocacy group. I spoke about coercive control, about how predators isolate, how they manipulate you into silence, how they make you complicit in your own suppression. Dad was rebuilding his practice. Mom was finishing therapy. Patrick was serving 25 to life with court-mandated psychiatric treatment. We were healing, separately, but with intention. Justice wasn't revenge, it was protection. It was preventing other families from losing what we lost. We carried trauma and hope together as we began rebuilding the life Patrick had tried so hard to steal.